I'm Stuart Charity. I'm the Executive Director of the Australian Automotive Aftermarket Association. Independent repair and service businesses right across Australia are facing a number of serious challenges at the moment, including the technological advancement of vehicles, the skills and training gaps, and also the predatory behaviour of the car companies. For these reasons, we believe the time is right to form a truly national group that exclusively represents the interests of independent repairers around the country. And we've done that by forming a group called the Automotive Repair Council of Australia, or ARCA. The main activities of ARCA are to protect consumer choice and competition in the vehicle repair and service market by ensuring that we have mandated access to dealer level repair and service information, and to really put the spotlight on some of the anti-competitive behaviour of the car companies, including their cap price and free service programs, and also warranty confusion and misinformation. One of the activities that we'll be doing is leveraging our relationship with parts suppliers so that we can deliver technical and training nights around the country, and we've also got a number of initiatives in place to start to address the skills gaps in the industry. One of the benefits will be that we'll be doing research to help identify initiatives that can be implemented in ARCA members' businesses to help them improve their profitability and business performance. Well, if you're a progressive repairer that cares about the future of our industry, then you need to join ARCA, and together we'll make sure that there's a bright future for everyone in our industry.
Okay, we could talk a lot about ARCA and what it's about, but it's the separate part of the AAA which is there to help with this whole issue that we've got with the industry and where it's at, which includes employing and finding people. However, if you haven't been to the AAA stand, and there will be time after you leave here, go to the stand and pick up the brochures there. They're free. There's little packs that talks to you about the right to repair and all of the different issues that we're working with. And on that basis, that makes you more aware of how to talk to your customers and your team, because we've all got to be aware of this. This last session out of the 10, when I was putting all these conferences together, or these seminars together, I should say, fresh sheet of paper, what are the subjects we needed? So I wrote down all the subjects, then I wrote the promos for them, and then I thought, how in the hell am I going to fill them? And what I thought was, in what order did I put them? And it's hard to know. But the one that was probably the most important is this one. And yet, if you look around, for those that have been to some of the other seminars, this has got the least amount of people in it, which is telling us exactly what the problem is. The problem is, yes, finding people, keeping people, but the true problem is our industry doesn't respect the value of our people. That's our problem. It doesn't understand and respect that we need to attract and find people for the right reasons. We need to see them as part of our team and not employees and all of those things. So that scares the heck out of me. But that's the reality of our situation. So our last session, let me tell you how it's going to run. We're going to have a presentation in a moment for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then we're going to have some guys sitting up on the stools here. We're going to ask some questions. I've got a series of questions I'm going to ask them. We're going to get instant response answers. We're going to run backwards and forwards, and when we think we've done and we've got enough, we'll stop. Okay? So we're not running to a timer whatsoever, though we won't go over time. So that's what we want to achieve. Now, how did I put this together? I thought, well, what do I need? I need somebody to talk about the subject in Australia, because our New Zealand friends are here right now. It's about Australia and what we run and how our apprenticeship system runs and how the funding runs with the government. And so I started to look for somebody to include. Who could I get to include it? Now, I talked to a number of these people. I'm going to be a little bit rude here and say who I talked to. I won't say who I talked to, what I talked to. But what I discovered in talking to them, they were more interested in the funding and the money and getting it a certain period of time, tick the box and get the check, than they were about the apprentice. Until I came across this guy over here, Rob Walker. Now, Rob's a pretty down-to-earth sort of guy. He's out of Tasmania, but he hasn't got two heads. He's safe, all right? But Rob works down he lives in Berwick, and he does down in the South Gippsland area. How hard is it for the Victorians in this room who know Australia and our situation? How tough is it in South Gippsland right now? It's pretty tough, okay? So I said to Rob, well, what's the secret? He said, the secret is in getting the right people with the president, and then how you treat them and how you keep them on the boil. And he actually cares. So, Rob, I'd like you to come up, please, and tell us the story of how Apprenticeship Matters works and If you just give me a welcome and then we'll get on to the interview style. Thanks. Thanks, Rob.
Tom. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much. As Colin said, I work for an apprenticeship centre called Apprenticeships Matter, and probably the biggest question, or the most common question I get asked is, where the hell am I going to find employees? They're all crap, you know? Well, gone are the days where you used to have people queued up at your door wanting jobs. We've got to look at it in a different way. We've got to approach things differently, and this is what I was mentioning to Colin. Things don't happen like they used to. We've got to advance a little bit further and look at a different way to go about the recruitment process, and have a look at the kids we're actually employing. Now, I think you'll find if you go to any school and talk to a career advisor, you'll still have the career advisor say that the non-academic kids will go into the automotive trade. This is just what I've been finding all my way through, but what they don't realise is the automotive trade is the most skilled trade of any trade throughout Australia. You know, we don't want the bunnies in the trade anymore. We want intelligent people that can handle all the requirements associated with the technology in cars today. So, you know, we need to turn things around a little bit. I go into the schools and talk to kids, and I can talk my head off to kids, but I think the industry as a whole have to change their outlook on things as well. I don't think the industry promote the trade in the manner that it should be promoted. Kids don't realise the career opportunities within the trade. They don't see the offshoots, you know, panel beaters, spray painters, marine, motorbikes, you know, the list goes on. And there's no other trade in Australia or the world that can offer the choices to kids that the automotive trade does. And I don't think the industry itself or the chambers are actually promoting these opportunities to the kids to inform them of the choices that are available. The other competition we've got too is that schools are pushing kids to higher education whether they want to go there or not. Kids today are wanting a 60 grand starting package. Anything less than that they think it's bloody rubbish, and they're not interested in doing the hard yards to get there. That's right across the board though. That's the mindset of kids nowadays, so we've got to try and change that. And I believe the only way we're going to do that is for industry to take another tack and actually go to the schools and the skills training centres and start their recruitment early. There are programs called school-based apprenticeships. I don't know whether any of you people are actually employed in those or go down that pathway, but I see this as mandatory for industry now. This is the only way you're going to get kids. So someone, either your apprenticeship centre that you work with or yourself, should be going into the schools and talking to kids that are in year 10, 11 and 12 and encouraging them to come to your workshop and have a look at it and to take part in the activities in your shop to get a good understanding of what they're going to walk into should you decide to offer them a job at the end of the day. Now, Colin talked about incentives. There are government incentives for people taking on school-based apprenticeships. And this is a really good opportunity for employers to actually view the kids before you buy. You can see what they're like. You can see if they're going to rock up for work on time. You can see if they want to participate. You can see how smart they are. You can see how they answer you back in the workshop. A whole range of things. So what we need to do is actually get out there and offer these kids these opportunities, get them in, view them, and work with them. And I'm saying, don't give them the crappy jobs that are in your shop because they're going to lose interest and they don't want to come into the trade. Now, I'll give you a couple of examples. I had a school-based boy working in a dealership at Ringwood. I went to see how things were going and he said, all I do is sweep the yard. He said, I don't do anything else. So I went and saw the service manager. I said, what's the go? And he said, well, he can't do it in the time frame that I've allowed for him to do it. He said, I don't want him on the tools until he can get it done in the time frame that we set. And I said, well, have you mentioned that to the kid? No. Communication. That kid, after I'd had a word to him and just told him what to explain how things work in industry, has now become an apprentice of the year. Now, if those sort of things hadn't been explained to him And I know, you've got to spoon-feed kids, but if I hadn't spoon-fed him that information, he probably would have been terminated from his school-based apprenticeship, and he wouldn't have done the thing that he wanted to do in his life. Okay? So we've really got to take stock of how we go about things nowadays and turn things upside down and take it from another way. Now, there's a dealership also that take 2 apprenticeships or 2 school-based apprentices every year religiously. Okay? They don't have a recruitment problem at the end of the year, because what they're doing is viewing these kids that they've taken on and offering them a job if they work out at the end of the year to go into a full-time apprenticeship. So who are the smart ones? The industry that's taken 2 school-based apprenticeships into their workshop every year, because it cuts out all that recruitment rubbish that we've got to go through time and time again. The other thing we need to do too, I think, is probably look at when we do our recruitment. I've had industry ring me and say, Rob, I know it's February, but can I get an apprentice? And I said, well, you're going to get a bunny, because where am I going to get an apprentice from in February? So we've really got to start looking at things early May for the following year, so that you can view the kids, gain access to them, and know that when they leave in October or November, you've got a fair show of recruiting them. Once they leave school, you've lost contact with your client base that you need to tap into. So we really need to look at when we're going to plan our recruitment, and most places should have an idea, do I need an apprentice next year? And the answer is you'll probably know midway through the year anyway, and that's when you should be starting to recruit, not wait until January, February, because you're going to miss the boat. Okay? Now, as I said, there are government incentives for employers that are taking on school-based apprenticeships. They're not much, but it's better than poking the eye of a sharp stick. There are lots of things involved with school-based apprentices. The main thing is that you've got a training plan signed by the schools, all those types of things, and this is where an apprenticeship centre will come in. We will come in and organise all that for you. All you've got to do is contact your apprenticeship centre and say, I'd like a school-based apprentice, and they should be able to go and source someone for you. Okay? If they're not prepared to do that, you give me a call and I'll organise someone to come and source it for you. Okay? Because my aim in life is to get kids an opportunity and to make sure that they succeed in what they're going to do. That's probably me in a nutshell, I think, Colin. I could go on, but I don't want to wear my welcome out. But listen, I'm open to questions. I've got business cards there if you want to take business cards later. More than happy to talk to you about the opportunities that are available and how we can tackle the employment side of things. Because if you haven't got good people in your workshop, you won't have good tradesmen hanging around, and you've not got no one to sell your business to at the end of the day. So, we need to work on improving that. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you. Thank you. Rob, just stick on the end stool there, please. Thanks, mate. Okay, our other people that we've got here today, we've got Ron Atkins from Future Autos in Brisbane. Join us, please, Ron. Ron's got his marker shirt on, so he's playing that game today. So Ron's very involved in AAA. And we've got Craig Bayliss from outside of Toowoomba, as I call it, because I can't pronounce where he actually has got his workshop. And I say that because he's out in a rural area, and he also does four-wheel drive. So it gives you an idea of his challenges. And then we've also got Michael Murphy. Where did you go, Michael? Michael's over here. Michael Murphy is with Rapid Tune. I nearly said the wrong one. With Rapid Tune, and he's in Chadstone, which is in a suburb of Melbourne, and so he's got a very decent sort of clientele. But what I'm going to do is ask these guys 2 questions and get instant response answers, and then tab off of those as we go along. But I just want to go to Michael first, because Michael, you've had, and just by then Rob mentioned dealerships, bad word, right? But he mentioned dealerships and finding people. For aftermarket though, there's still what we learn from dealerships and how they get people in. I know they've got more money to play with, but what they do and what we do in aftermarket. Now, with Michael, he's done both. He's worked in dealerships and he's attracted young people, and he's aftermarket and attracted young people. And you've got some experiences about finding people in both sides of that.
Yes, so Colin, I did 18 years with dealership and did all the recruitment for service departments within our dealership. And we used to always do exactly the same thing, 2 apprentices every year. We would do the school-based apprentices and I come from Tasmania. So we did school-based apprentices in Tassie, and they worked really well because you can exactly see what these guys are going to work out to be before you employ them, and that worked really well. Coming over to Melbourne, I opened my own business, the Rapid Chain store, and it was a little bit different for me. I was sort of a little bit of fish out of water, didn't know a lot of ways things were done on the Big Island, how we did our apprenticeships and that sort of thing, so I had to learn that. And I started advertising on Seek and looking at employment people out there, and they would send me people to look at and see if they would work out for the shop. And since we've gone through those processes, we actually do group interviews. So I will put an ad on Seek for an apprentice. I think on the last time we got like 60 applications, and out of that I went through, read them all, and then put them through a group interview process so you could actually see how they operate in a group form. And then from there, we would then shortlist them, bring them into the shop and start doing trials with them. And we've got the same apprentices we started with, are still there now.
That's great. So to get to the schools though, did you actually go to the school career advisor?
In Tasmania, the actual schools approached us.
Oh, they were proactive.
They were very proactive down there. We had four schools within 5k radius of our dealership, and they would approach us, and we would just sort of, one year would use one school, another year would use another school, because you just couldn't take all the kids into the workshop at the time.
Do you think they were more receptive to the fact that you had a dealership, you were looking for people, or if it had been aftermarket, they would have been just as receptive?
I think that they would have been just as receptive. I would definitely do it over here if I knew that was about, and I'll be talking to Robert after this.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Rob, when you suggest that a guy goes to a school career guy, that career guy's got to know all these different things, and you told him he pigeonholes where we live. Is there some advice that you would give to the people in the room here as to how they might approach a school advisor? Sorry, what are they called again?
Yeah, look, the thing you probably need to do is to try and get some kids that are actually interested in the trade to come to your workshop for a review to start with.
Yeah, but how you're going to go to
kids just don't realise what they're getting themselves into, and I find a lot of kids go into the trades and then say, well, you know, when they pull the pin on it, they'll say, oh, it's not what I expected. So I think we've got to be a little bit smart about it. Go to the career advisors and offer them the opportunity to bring kids through the shop, whether it be a dealership or a smaller workshop or whatever. Show them what's involved with the trade, and then go from there, and then offer your school-based apprenticeship for those kids that are doing year 11 and year 12 to do the part-time studies at school and the part-time studies in the workshop. Yep. So at the end of the day, they've got a pretty good overview of where you go.
So Rob, would you suggest that if I had a decent mechanical workshop, and by the way, if I got a mechanical workshop and I want to attract some people, it needs to be a decent looking place with some good equipment, doesn't it? Otherwise, the kid's going to take one look and say, I don't want to be in this. But if I had that workshop and I went down to the local school in my area and I said, can I speak to the career counsellor, please? And I would have, 5-10 minutes to say, this is what my business is about, this is what it looks like, smells like, and would you like to come and see it one time and I'll show you what our kids do or what we do? Would they be receptive to that?
Yeah, they would be. The only trouble is the career advisors change up from day to day because it depends on their work schedule as to who's the career advisor. So that's probably one of the difficulties that we're finding as well, is that a lot of the schools haven't got a specific career advisor for a full 12-month period. It depends on what their teaching load's like as to who's going to do the advisory side of things. So that's where it's really hard, is because, you know, I know that I've gone into schools with a whole heap of information and CDs about the trades, and I know full well that that file was just thrown in the bottom drawer and never looked at again, because those people are in that role for probably 2 or 3 months, and who's going to benefit from that? It certainly won't be the kids, because they won't be getting the advice that I'm hoping that the kids will be relayed to. So,
okay,
so we've got a lot of difficulties in relation to that.
Yep.
So yeah, but go to a career advisor, and hopefully if we pound away long enough, we'll get a response.
Okay, so talking on both levels now, both either, and ask you the questions, you can answer them from whichever level you're on. Be it an apprentice or be it just finding people, you know, what do you do, Ron, to try and find people?
Well, I think it all starts in your workshop before you do anything. You've got to want someone to come to your workshop. You've got to create a good working environment. Speaking of apprentices, I have my own way of attacking that situation, and I've had probably, I think, 6, and 5 bar 1, have all been very successful.
How'd you find them?
How did I find them? Through the system. And now I suppose I'm talking over the last probably 20 years, so I've seen it evolve and change and change. And what I can tell you is kids haven't changed that much. They still respond to how you treat them, how you talk to them. You just got to tell them to put their phone in their toolbox or something like that. But we never had that issue. But really, they haven't changed. So, to me, pride, respect, and intelligence. But if you don't have it in your workshop, how the hell are you going to teach the kids?
So have you found any apprentices recently?
Yes, I have.
And how'd you find them?
Well, sorry, I've just had an apprentice just finish his trade, finish his time, and he's kept on as tradesman. The interesting thing with this young fellow, I had a lot of trouble with him, a lot of trouble, to the point of I nearly got rid of him on 2 or 3 occasions, only because he wasn't focused. But I like to run a tight ship, and I was just commenting to some guys outside. I've seen a huge change in this lad, and he's now probably the most efficient mechanic in my workshop, and he just finished in February.
What was the reason he changed?
Opportunity, and me getting in his ear and telling him there is a future in this industry. And that's the biggest problem. We've just heard it. These kids don't think there's a future in this industry. They just don't. They just don't. We need to sprinkle this industry up. We need to be proud of our own businesses. We need to have pride in what we do before we can have these kids have pride.
How involved is this guy in diagnostics and scan tools,
Very,
etc.?
very.
Is that the trigger?
Of course it is.
That was the trigger.
Of course it
Okay.
is.
Thanks.
And having good quality tradesmen to teach him, because that's what we do. So we always don't have the apprentice doing the servicing. We have the apprentice probably once every 3 or 4 days, take on a challenge, put him in the corner and let him go. And the tradesman are allowed to assist, but not give him the answers. He then has to use all the information that I've got. Now, if I haven't got the information, what do you expect him to do? If I don't have wiring diagrams, if I don't have specific information on that vehicle, how the hell does he even try? We have a process on how to attack the job.
Okay, so let's step now to what do you do, Craig, to find people? You're out in near Toowoomba, you're in a regional area. How do you find people?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's not straightforward. I think something that we look at closely is defining what we need in the workshop from an employment point of view. So it's one thing to have a workshop full of mechanics that can, change brakes and clutches and that sort of thing. But do you need another person like that, or do you need someone that's very good at diagnostics, or do you need someone that's good at auto electrics? So it's understanding what you want to do, where you want to go with your business, and getting the right people into that business to make it grow. So once you've defined that, then you go looking, and that's we've had success with Seek. We've had success as much as look around other businesses and is there someone in another business that can be beneficial to your business? Again, it's probably not the ideal way to go, but you've got to look. You've got to be a bit selfish about it, I think, and what's going to do your business the most favours.
So given that you've decided who you want an apprentice or you want a tradesperson and so forth, how do you then find those people? Everybody in this industry tells me they're not out there, you can't find them.
You've got to look. You've got to look. Like we go to, we're at trade nights, we're at, training nights, all that sort of stuff, and you've got to look. It's one thing to advertise. You've got to be clear in your advertising of who you want and why you want them, I guess. But it's another thing to look around you and go, well, hang on a second, that guy over there, I think he's going to fit in really well in my business. That's, I guess, approaching people, getting to know people, networking with people. Drawing them to you. And again, having the facility, having the workshop that makes it attractive for people to come across is a definite plus. If it's not attractive, why would you leave there to come here? So,
correct.
Yeah, there's always options to find people.
So we've sort of, we've sum up the find. If we sum up the find a little bit, and if we go from the apprenticeship point of view, We go to the schools, we try, even if we know they're going to change every 3 months, we keep at the schools and try and get the career counsellor. We get on to good people like Rob who actually care and work about keeping the guy. We make sure that we're getting young kids that we can profile, that's what you've been telling us, to be appropriate. Give them something decent to do when they get there, not pushing the broom. That's how I started, pushing the broom. And when I started pushing the broom, my thing was how fast could I do it and then get a gold star and elephant stamp if I did it quick. And by the third day, the workshop foreman said to me, "You're a problem." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "You work too fast. I haven't got anything for you to do now." I called that a high-class problem. I was only 16, 15, okay? I know where he finished and I know where I finished, another story. So what I guess I'm driving at here is that that's what we can take from this. So the other from the getting a tradesperson, that's networking and that's out there looking and seeing, that's a little seek.
I think as far as the networking thing goes, every workshop's got reps that come into your workshop. You know, some of them you don't necessarily want there, others you want there. And you'll establish a relationship with those reps. Now, we've got relationships with reps from, you know, over a long period of years. Just ask them the question, hey, do you know of anyone, because they know what your business is like.
Yep.
Do you know of anyone, you know, in your travels that could fit into our business? And they might drop a name, they might find someone out there that, you know, they can present to you or suggest. So it's always an opportunity there too.
So let's go to the other. That's the fine. We've done a little bit on the fine. Now the next thing is keeping them. That's not easy. Michael, what do you do to keep your staff?
Look, I always look at my staff and I talk to them every day. I will ask them how their weekend was. I will treat them with respect. I'll treat them the way I would like to be treated back. We always go out every month for a group dinner, and the rule is the staff choose where we go. They have that involvement. We're not allowed to go, we say we don't go to the same place twice, so it's always something different. They know the door's always open. If there's a problem, they can come to me, they can talk to me, if it's work-related or personal-related. As long as they feel that they have value in your workshop, they will hang around. The other thing that we promote, and especially through Rapid Tune, is expansion. So a lot of apprentices will end up being head mechanics. They then will become store managers and then store owners. And if you look at our system that we've got now, I would say that 80% of the store owners used to be apprentices within the business.
So show them somewhere to go.
So they have got this career path there for them.
Hey,
And
Mike,
they love it.
Sorry?
They love to know that they have got some direction, that I work hard here, I can get to this level and I can keep going. Where in a dealership world, it's a lot harder to get up those ladders because there's a lot more people in the workshop.
So if we get a guy from a dealership and we show him this possibility for the future, we're likely to be able to keep him.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
And, okay, Craig, what do you do to keep guys?
Yeah, look, it's a lot of it is respect, is knowing your guys, understanding them, knowing their needs and wants and all that sort of stuff. I think giving them the tools to work with, the training to work with. You know, we're probably pretty big on that to make sure that, hey, if there's a job to be done, yeah, they've got the gear to do it with. You know, they've got their own hand tools and stuff, but as far as information goes and scan tools and all that sort of gear, it's no point, you know, booking in a job that you haven't got a tech for and expecting someone, you know, to do it, if you know what I mean. So having the gear there, keeping them, keeping them interested and as though they're involved in the business as well.
So how involved do you get your guys? Just sort of like have a monthly meeting and say, this is where we're at, this is what's happening, this is what's going on in the business, or what is your method of keeping them involved?
Yeah, talking to them, and it might be as a group or individually, and a lot of the time, you know, it won't be a formal meeting, so, you know, you'll be walking around the workshop and just having a chat with them, you know, just pulling up, spending 5-10 minutes with them and going, hey, how's things going, etc., etc. You know, and a lot of the time it's they don't see it as a formal meeting and they don't even know it's a meeting, you know, like it's just having a relationship with them one-on-one there at points or as a group.
Who works out what jobs are going to be done by whom each day?
Yeah, we've got, there's myself in the business, Catherine's in the business, we've got a front counter, you know, service advisor, service manager as well. Each of our guys have all got their individual strengths. So, you know, back to before, you know, I've got one guy that's you know, very good with mechanical things. I've got one guy that's very good with, you know, diagnostic things. We've got a fourth-year apprentice that's just a good all-rounder. So working out what the jobs are and who's going to best handle it is always good to have that diversification in your business. They can all do the same. They can all do the same things, but you know, we work to people's strengths rather than their weaknesses. So.
Do they come to you at any time and say, hey, look, I wouldn't mind a bit extra do, or do a bit more of that, or can you give me some of those sort of jobs to do? Do they ever ask you for certain sort of jobs?
Yeah, one guy particularly, he's really focused with the tech side of things, so he's always wanting to look at that diagnostic stuff and tech stuff. So, you know, we try and nurture that. If there's training that comes up and falls into that category for him, bang, he's off to it. You know, one of the other guys we got, you know, we'll look at him to do different jobs, and you know, he doesn't want to do some of that real hard tech stuff. So, again, knowing what they're capable of, knowing what they're comfortable with, I think, you know, gets a good result.
Yeah. But the secret there of how you keep your people. You keep them doing what they like doing, so they achieve every day.
Yeah, well, it's no point getting them doing servicing every day if they don't like it, you know.
And what's your secret to keeping people?
Comes back to the old pride. It comes back to keep them educated. When blokes are around their 30s and that, in a lot of other industries, they don't have to do anything. I mean, if they're a sparky, I mean, they can advance on their career, but I mean, they're dealing with three wires, and it's always been like that. But in our industry, it's slightly different. So no matter how old you are, and I've got a couple of elderly guys in my workshop, we continually get educated on new technologies. And quite simply, I've been a very big believer in training, and within our group we train on a regular basis. But the proof is in the pudding. For instance, we have common rails coming in now with problems that we can fix, and so we charge. And these common rails have been to other workshops. But what I do know is that all my staff are well educated and trained. And yes, I pay for it, but I look at it as an investment. So if we were dealing with with BA Falcons and VZ Commodores for the next 10 years, well, that's fine. Keep the guys stagnant and we'll get on top of it. But we're not. So those that don't train are going to fall behind. So any type of training is better than nothing. And what I find within our group, we send our apprentices to training no matter what. If it's high-tech common rail, if it's to do with SRS, doesn't matter. The kids will pick it up. They will pick it up. And they get interested because they're dealing with other workshops, they're dealing with older guys, and there's a respect there. So creating a good working environment is hard. Dealing with individual guys themselves with all their little wants and needs. But I think we hit it on the head before also. I've got one mechanic in particular that's just a machine, but he will not answer the phone and he won't talk to customers.
That's his bag.
So what do? Do I get him to talk to customers and answer phones? No, I don't. I let him work away in the corner and he just produces. You really have to know, and your guys will come forward and tell you what they want to do. They're not going to stand in the background. About selecting jobs, I give my guys ownership of jobs. To me, very important. If you don't give your staff ownership of the job, that's probably half the reason why he gets disappointed. And what I mean by ownership is he's in charge of that job. And when we have a technical job, if I've got 4 blokes on the floor, at any stage, they're all involved in that one job. And we've got a whiteboard that we write it up on, and we suss through it. Through our systems, I suppose. But getting back to how do you keep them? It is hard. It is hard when you get $30 an hour to hold a stop sign and then turn it around and it says go. $30 an hour for that. So it can't be about money. It needs to be more. The money will come. It needs to be about opportunity. And
enjoying what you do.
And we just spoke about that.
And so what I'm hearing from that, I guess you're hearing the same thing, is that all these people are saying pretty much the same thing about how they keep people. The person in the job is enjoying what they're doing what they like to do, they're getting satisfaction out of that in some form, they're feeling like they're succeeding in some form, either for the future or for now. And that's when you think about it from a management point of view, that's the key. People do what they get rewarded for or measured by within their perception. So if they feel they're getting the reward for themselves from somebody else. Second thing about management, we know why people stick around is because they like to feel in on things. I'm involved. These guys have all talked about how their people are involved. So if you tick all the boxes of why people stay, and by the way, if you go to the management structure, it says number 5 is wages. Because yes, everybody wants to get some decent money, but they want these other things up front. So sometimes when we're trying to keep people, we need to look at what's inside that person, what's success to them, what's important to them. And each of these people we're talking about just then without saying it, but that's what you're doing. You're doing that. Okay, so I reckon we can wrap this.
Can I just add one little thing to that?
Please, Rob.
I'm a mentor at Apprenticeships Matter as well, so I mentor a range of kids throughout various trades. And I think the biggest problem why kids are dropping out of the trade is probably a lack of communication between the actual apprentice and their employer. They're not too sure what's going on. And I'm finding too that unfortunately a lot more kids are being very social in activities outside of work, and it's all related to mental health issues, drug problems, alcohol problems. I've even got some kids that are actually homeless that I've been trying to help as well. No fault of their own in those circumstances, it's just the bucket that they've fallen into. So I think employers have really got to stay in tune with the apprentices that they've got and listen to what they're talking about, so that if something is said, it sets up a little bit of a trigger. I think, geez, that kid might need a bit more help. I might spend a bit more time to him. I'm going to drag him aside, one-on-one, have a bit of a chat to him, just find out what's happening. And then you can put some things in place to try and help these kids. And if you can't do it yourself, you ask for some guidance in relation to it. Now, a lot of the things can be overcome, but it's patience, time and perseverance. And I'm sure each one of you kids would like, or each one of you people would like to think that if your kids were caught up in this sort of a cycle, that someone would be able to help them through the troubles that they're going through. So I think we've all got to be a little bit more patient in relation to things and be a little bit more switched on to what's actually happening in your workshop, and look for those triggers so that you can act on it, so that that kid feels as though he's got an obligation to actually work for you, because you actually busted your chops to help him when he was in strife, and he's not going to want to leave your workshop because he knows that you care about him or her.
And that's the key factor, I think.
Okay.
And something that we've learned along the way is, you not only employ people, but you employ their problems as well. Yep. As much as we don't like to think that we do, we do. And how you handle that is a big part of keeping your staff and retaining those staff. Now, as far as, once you find a problem or understand a problem, having someone to talk through with that plays a big part in how it's handled. Now, I'm the world's worst at it because, I'm not real good with that stuff. That woman down there, she's awesome at it, So having, I guess, from an ownership point of view with the business, having, some, and again, it comes down to skills that can handle those things, makes a big difference. So once you recognise someone's got a problem, hey, how are we going to deal with that before it affects the business?
And that's not saying it's not my problem.
No, not at all.
That's saying it is. And the last point on that, and thank you for that great input there, if you go to the management structure and why people stay and so forth, number 4, I told you 5 was wages, number 4 is being able to relate personal problems. So I rang one of my psychologist friends one time when I first read that, and I said, why would this be number 4? He said, it's a very simple answer. He said, in today's society compared to years ago, there's a huge difference. It used to be that we'd go home at night, we'd sit around the table, we'd have a meal with the family, we'd watch TV, we'd do things together as a family, and so that was where the interaction, that's where the problems came out, and that was where the greatest deal of security came. People today, young kids, spend more time in their work environment than they do in their home environment, so psychologically their work environment has become their secure core. Their home is supposed to be their secure core, but their work becomes their secure core. They start talking about things at work that they should be talking about at home. And so you guys get lumbered with that. That's just the reality of the world that we're in today. That's our new world. Okay, so let's just do a quick snap summary of what we've got here. Firstly, apprentices can be found, we can go to schools, we can talk to them, and there are people like Rob out there that actually care about the apprentices. And I think a round of applause for the fact he does. Would you agree? Okay. And if we go then and look at the our other three people here, each of them have said in their different ways how they find people. Firstly, they look for the people that's right for their profile. They go looking, they go networking, or they go looking for the kids, and they actually show them an environment where they're going to learn something, where they're going to achieve. Because human beings love to succeed. It's part of our DNA. So if you don't show the person how they're going to succeed, no matter what it is, they're not going to stay. And today, kids' attention span is like that. So you've got to show you succeeded, which means that we have to give them positive reinforcement. That's good, you did that well, gee, that worked out well, that worked well. You've got to give them that because they don't get it from home like they used to, like I did as a kid. So that if you take that's how we find them. Then how we keep them, all of these guys are saying in their own different way the same sort of things. Would you agree? You've got to look after them, you've got to respect them, you take them out to dinner, you talk to them if they've got a problem and so forth. Show people that you care about their future and their lives. I have no problem with that. That's in my DNA, it's in my personality, it's in my style. 30 years ago when I went to go out of the corporate scene with a 6-inch knife to stick in the back of the guy alongside you up the corporate ladder, I went out to my own business, I had one desire. I sat down and worked out what is it that motivates me? Why do I get motivated about anything? And I wrote, question, why? I came down to one thing. I love to see people succeed. I could go down and watch some under-8 kids playing basketball and the guy shoots a score, it's his first ever score, and I'd probably cry. Because I saw the kid succeed, I don't even know who he is. I've been known to watch sporting games and clap the kids like that and fantastic, and people say, do you know him? I said, no idea. Because I love to see people succeed. So if that's not part of your DNA and part of your way, it needs to become part of your way. Because if you don't generally want people to succeed, then all of these things, nothing happens. It's all about wanting others to succeed. If you only want to use and abuse, in today's world, you're history for getting staff. Absolutely history. So our world and mechanical world and workshop world has to turn upside down. We've got to refocus. It's not about fixing cars. It's about finding people, having them enjoy what they're doing, which happens to be fixing cars. And that's the big shift we've got to make in our business. I'd like to say once again, thank you very much, Rob. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Craig. And thank you, Michael, for being here today. Did you get value?